President Ramatar calls for unity to move the country forward as he delivers his New Year's message. President and First Lady ringing the New Year in grand style, and the head of state makes a financial contribution on behalf of the nation to CARICOM member states hard hit by tropical storms for their reconstruction efforts. We'll have the details of these and other presidential activities in this week's edition of the Diary for the period December 28th to January 3rd. I'm your host, Paul McAdam. President Ramatar calls for unity to move the country forward as he delivers his New Year's message.
President Donald Ramatar, in his New Year's message to the nation, urged all Guyanese to work together in the interest of the country. The head of state expressed the hope that in 2014 all stakeholders will continue to work to strengthen peace, progress and prosperity in the country and contribute to the world as well.
I acknowledge that political obstacles stand in the way of our transformative agenda. I hope that the new year we can get some cooperation from our colleagues on the other side of the House to move our country forward. If the government is to be held accountable for the performance of our economy, we reserve the right to be responsible for its developmental trajectory. This right, however, will not be pursued to the exclusion of other forces within the country. We will continue to encourage dialogue, debates, and consultations with all stakeholders, including the people in the communities.
The politics of blackmail will undermine our democracy and can lead to further inequality, the president stated.
It will not be a good example for our people, particularly for the youth. I wish to urge all to let us work together in the interest of our people. Let us be aware that life is short. Let us not waste time on pettiness, but focus our energy towards the betterment of our people.
The President and First Lady ring in the New Year in grand style.
President Donald Ramatar and First Lady Diolachmi Ramatar had quite an eventful night as they joined hundreds of Guyanese around the city to ring in the new year. They first made their way to the Guyana Defense Forces base camp in Ghana to witness the fireworks at midnight. The Commander-in-Chief later joined the ranks of the Guyana Police Force at Ivleary. The presidential entourage made brief stops at a few major night spots in the city before joining his party comrades at Red House in Kingston.
On behalf of the government, I wish to extend a very happy and prosperous New Year to each and every one of you and to your families and loved ones as well. As most of you will know, the last year was not an easy one for us, but despite the difficulties, I still think that we have a lot of achievements that we can be proud of. And this year poses both opportunities and challenges ahead of us. I have every confidence that we will be able, despite the complications, that we will be able this year also to advance our country and to take it to other levels. But to do that, I will depend on each and every one of you for your support, for your help, for us to work very, very hard to overcome the resistance to the development of our society.
You're watching The Diary, where we have been recapping the highlights of the country's president's weekly activities. More after the break.
Amerindian rights to land ownership continues to be a high priority for the PBPC government. The signing of a U.S. $10.7 million agreement with the United Nations Development Program has paved the way for the implementation of the Land Titling and Demarcation Project, which is expected to provide absolute grants and certificates of title to eligible Amerindian communities and villages. There are 97 titled villages, while 77 others have had their lands demarcated. The Ministry of Amerindian Affairs will be working to process the first batch of 33 communities for land extension and 70 for demarcation under the 3-year land titling project. In an effort to better their lives, more than 42,000 pensioners are currently enjoying a 25% increase in their pension. This is in addition to the waiver of the Guyana Water Incorporated's bill. And in another attempt to enhance their lives, over 8,500 pensioners are benefiting from $20,000 subsidy yearly towards their electricity bills with the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated.
Guyana as a tourist destination continues to receive international acclaim. The reputable National Geographic Traveler has named Destination Guyana as one of the must-see places in 2014. The renowned magazine said Guyana is the best-kept secret in South America with stunning natural wonders. This year, increased focus will be placed on enhancing the standards within the industry, focusing on tourism products and services, multi-destination itinerary planning, events management, ecotourism, and sustainable principles and guidelines, as well as a grading scheme which will be developed for the industry.
The Vision 2020 Health Strategy is launched by the head of state.
President Ramatar highlighted the importance of an adequate executive board, the need for medical professionals to possess the right attitude towards their jobs, and the need to manage their duties professionally as he formally launched the National Health Strategy on December 30. Addressing the audience of mostly medical professionals, the President congratulated the Health Ministry for the program, but said that much more needed to be done.
Resources are not unlimited, and there's a lot of other need out there. I think more that people can go out into the communities, into the interior, into different places, to have an appreciation of the needs that are there. We will be more careful with how they handle some of government's resources and the resources that are given to you, $19 billion this year, given to you to manage for the development of our society.
There has been partnership with international agencies to develop the sector via areas such as training and medical expertise. These, the President said, must be fully utilized to ensure that citizens can access the service they deserve, and he called for a change in the attitudes of those giving such services.
Now that you have a plan, there's an old saying that theory and practice must go together. One said, theory without practice is useless, and practice without theory is blind. You now have a plan. You now have a vision. And I hope that the implementation of this vision can constantly keep focus on the plan, on the direction, and we can provide for our people a service that is second to none in the region, and hopefully will reach the standards of world standards in the not too distant future.
The Vision 2020 plan was developed with input from numerous stakeholders and is intended to address challenges such as human resource and health awareness issues.
The head of state makes a financial contribution on behalf of the nation to CARICOM member states hard hit by tropical storms for their reconstruction efforts.
The government has contributed $100,000 each to the governments of St. Lucia and St. Vincent respectively, and $75,000 to Dominica. This follows a pledge made by President Donald Ramatar to assist the stricken nations affected by severe storms. The funds were accumulated through a joint private sector appeal. President Donald Ramotar, in a telephone call on December 26, had extended his sympathies to Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony, on the loss of lives and damage to property and infrastructure caused by the severe rains and heavy winds which swept over the Eastern Caribbean during the last few days. Due to initial communication difficulties, the President was unable to reach the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, to convey similar sentiments. A tropical high-pressure system resulted in at least 20 deaths in St. Vincent and St. Lucia, with several persons being reported missing. According to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, the government of Guyana will continue to monitor the situation via reports from the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, with a view to continuing to support the recovery efforts of the affected member states of the Eastern Caribbean.
Government will partner with regional counterparts to address issues of climate change.
2014 will see an increased focus on climate change and closer ties being forged internationally to address and mitigate its effects, according to President Ramotar.
Very important too is the issue of climate change and the challenges it poses. In recent weeks, we have witnessed extreme weather in Guyana and the wider Caribbean. This has resulted in millions of dollars damages and loss of life. The scientific evidence is showing that for our region, which is one of the most vulnerable, these weather events will become more frequent as the impacts of global climate change intensify.
Government will work with international partners on this issue, he said.
In this regard, I intend in this coming year to work with other CARICOM heads to ensure regional action on climate change is given top priority. Recognizing our own vulnerabilities here in Guyana, efforts will intensify in 2014 to improve and expand infrastructure, in particular our sea and river defenses and drainage and irrigation systems, enhance our forecasting capabilities and response mechanisms, and build climate resilience in the social and productive sectors of our economy.
These efforts will be conducted within the ambit of the Low Carbon Development Strategy framework.
Society is to play a greater role to combat domestic violence.
President Ramotar says that civic society members have a greater role to play as efforts intensify to fight the scourge of domestic violence.
In 2014, I propose to conscript social and religious organizations in the fight against domestic violence. I believe that these organizations should play a leading role in addressing this concern, and I wish to incorporate them to reduce this terrible scourge.
The issue of domestic violence has been a cause of concern, and despite several initiatives, a number of persons, mostly women and children, have lost their lives through the actions of other family members.
More of the diary after this break.
In an effort to better their lives, more than 42,000 pensioners are currently enjoying a 25% increase in their pension. This is in addition to the waiver of the Guyana Water Incorporated's bill. And in another attempt to enhance their lives, over 8,500 pensioners are benefiting from $20,000 subsidy yearly towards their electricity bills with the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated.
Guyana as a tourist destination continues to receive international acclaim. The reputable National Geographic Traveler has named Destination Guyana as one of the must-see places in 2014. The renowned magazine said Guyana is the best-kept secret in South America with stunning natural wonders. This year, increased focus will be placed on enhancing the standards within the industry, focusing on tourism products and services, multi-destination itinerary planning, events management, ecotourism, and sustainable principles and guidelines, as well as a grading scheme which will be developed for the industry.
Amerindian rights to land ownership continues to be a high priority for the PBPC government. The signing of a US $10.7 million agreement with the United Nations Development Program has paved the way for the implementation of the Land Titling and Demarcation Project, which is expected to provide absolute grants and certificates of title to eligible Amerindian communities and villages. There are 97 titled villages, while 77 others have had their lands demarcated. The Ministry of Agrarian Affairs will be working to process the first batch of 33 communities for land extension and 70 for demarcation under the 3-year land titling project.
The focus on the education sector will continue in the new year, says the President.
Government will continue its focus on enhancing the education sector in 2014, according to President Ramatar.
Education is becoming more accessible to all our students. We are building a new school in Region 8 and rebuilding the one in Region 10, destroyed by arsonists. We continue to provide more books and uniforms to our children. We are also training more teachers for our schools at the same time. The result has been more students completing primary and secondary education, more students accessing tertiary and university education, better performance by our students at regional examinations, and a better educated and more skilled workforce.
He noted that outstanding performances by local students compared to their regional counterparts are a reflection of government's investment within the education sector.
Indeed, over the last 10 years, Guyanese students have won the highest awards given by the Caribbean Examination Council 8 times. This year, we got 5 of the top 8 awards. Clearly, our investments are paying off.
Government has invested over $28 billion in the education sector in 2013.
That's all in this week's diary for the period December 28th to January 3rd. To recap, President Ramatar calls for unity to move the country forward as he delivers his New Year's message. President and First Lady ringing the New Year in grand style, and the head of state makes a financial contribution on behalf of the nation, the CARICOM member states hard hit by tropical storms, for their reconstruction efforts. Do join us again for the next program when we will bring you more of the President's activities. I'm your host, Paul McAdam, thanking you for joining us. Do have a pleasant rest of the week and Happy New Year.